Good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Baseball Bums. I am Benny Skella, aka The Player. Now, you may know me from that critically acclaimed adult film, Whistle While You Jerk. And we may be bums, but I am joined by the Baron of Bumball Metrics, the great Jimmy Farrow. Jimmy, how are you, my friend?
Whistle while you jerk. What is this? Snow White in the 7 centimeters? What's going on here?
Oh,
That's
boy.
rough. I like that one though. Now I'm a baron this week. Boy, my title
The
changes every
Baron.
week.
That's all the
Yeah.
people need to know. So, Jimmy, anybody who is anybody is talking about Bumball Metrics. And I
He's a
actually got a
beauty.
letter in the mail yesterday from Ford Frick praising us for our epic breakthrough. Now the
Ford
address
Frick?
on the envelope was the same as the local asylum, and yes, the envelope was sealed with tapioca pudding. But God damn it, it was Ford Frick. He's very impressed with us. But you know what we're going to do tonight? We're going to take our defending champions, 1998 Yankees, and we got three great challenges: the 54 Cleveland Indians, 75 Cincinnati Reds, and the 2001 Seattle Mariners. Now, the Indians and the M's they didn't win it all, but we decided to include them because of their epic. I mean, two of the best regular season records in baseball history. So, are you ready, Der Baron? Der
I
Baron.
am ready.
All right. Well, before we get to the main event, we got a prelim here. Now,
All right.
believe it or not, the baseball season is already 1/3 over. A little bit of, we're like 54, 55 games in. And Judge is on pace, believe it or not, last year was like out of this world. And he's on pace to match it or maybe even break it. But let me, there we go. Look, this is a couple of days ago, but Judge 395, 18 homers, 47 ribbies. Soto 228, 8 homers, and I think like 23, 24 ribbies. Soto's making $62 million. So my comment is Soto isn't even SoSo. Should he give the Mets a refund?
He's of course he's never going to give them a refund. But what's worse is his body language about the whole thing. I'm gonna look at it from a Met fan's perspective. I would be really pissed at him, not because of necessarily that the numbers stink. Of course, that's immensely disappointing, and you'd be pissed at him. But there's still plenty of time left in the season, and you got to wait that out. It's his body language. He is so, they used to give Robinson Cano a lot of grief when he was here. Yet he played every single game, and he was a great player, and he put up the numbers, and he
Oh
helped win
man,
and he helped win a championship. And people got on him for like a rare moment that he seemed to be nonchalant. This guy's doing this all season long. He's very, eh. There's always tomorrow. That's not the attitude to take here, and that's the attitude. And even if it's not really how he feels, it's the attitude he's giving off. It's the vibe he's giving off. He's giving off
perception's
the idol.
reality.
Yeah, he's giving off the whatever. I got my money. That's how it feels to the fan. The fan's got to be fucking pissed at that. That's ridiculous. What it also further shows is that Soto should have been thanking Aaron Judge because yes, when you're hitting in front of Aaron Judge, you are going to see better pitches. And Aaron Judge clearly doesn't miss him one bit. We're in first place last I checked by 6.5 games.
Yeah,
And Aaron Judge is on pace for 50 plus home runs, 150 or so RBIs, and he's threatening to hit 400.
and he is pushing the 400 barrier there.
Right. And the money that we so generously offered to him and instead wound up getting three quality players, that we have the best pitcher in Major League Baseball right now.
Oh, we do
We
absolutely.
we wouldn't have that if we had spent all the money on him. We wouldn't have had Bellinger. And last I checked, Mr. Goldschmidt's done quite well with us, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I mean,
so everything's fine. And let's see if we can get back to the dance. I do like our odds early on. If we can quickly talk about what's going on with Aaron Judge's New York Yankees, I like what's going on. Okay, there's no powerhouses in the league, but you know something? What is it? Why does that penalize the Yankees or currently Detroit, who has the best winning percentage in the American League? We've got a few teams over 600, and maybe you have one or two more in the National League, but the rest is the rest. And that's why you play the games, because you
and I
never
think
know when
we
there's.
we uh, we lead Major League Baseball in run differential, I believe.
Right. Well, we're doing just fine, and he's struggling. And let the season play out. But Mr. Soto needs to change his body language because he's looking like he don't give a damn. And as a fan, that's the last thing I ever want to see out of a player.
Well, I keep wondering though. I mean, the guy literally got offered by the Yankees $750 million,
Right.
and you're hitting in front of Aaron Judge. You know that
Right.
you're going to get good pitches to hit. You're
Right.
set for 1,000 lifetimes. Why do you
Yeah.
turn that down?
Well, I'll never understand it because for a year less, he got $5 million more to go to the Mets, and it wouldn't have mattered to me what team he went to. Let's make that very clear. Because I am with Derek Jeter. Sure, we get dragged into arguments sometimes with Met fans if they force us into the argument. Because honestly, I have nothing to argue with a Met fan about. I know my math, and they should know theirs, and it doesn't matter when it happened. It happened. That's the math, you know. Uh, I don't get dragged into it. The Met fan has to understand that the reason why Yankee fans, or at least this Yankee fan, and maybe you too, Benny, are annoyed with Soto is that it wouldn't have mattered what team he went to. He took $5 million more for a year less and said no. And I don't care if this is a popular opinion or not. He said no to the most legendary team in the history of this game, where he played well, he was treated well. The fans liked him very much,
Oh,
and
they
him and
love them.
Soto and Judge together worked. It worked, and we got to a World Series. Okay, we lost it. So what? The odds are very good that you're going to get back there again, and you can go down as a great Yankee. And we offer. Look, if we had there's no such thing as lowballing today with these ridiculous numbers. But let's say we had offered him 10 years, 500 million, and that's that. And he chose to go wherever he went, whether it was the Mets or anybody else, for the 15 and the 765. Okay. It's the fact that we were that gracious to be right there with that, and he takes 1 year less and 5 million more to go someplace else. So it became clear to me it is about positioning and ego. He doesn't want to be behind and living in the shadow of Judge. He wants to be his own guy, and he wants the money. It's a bad
Yeah,
look. It wouldn't have mattered if he had gone to the Mets, the Red Sox, or the fucking Oakland A's, who are no longer going to be Oakland next year. Where are they going to be? The Vegas A's, whatever they're going to be.
Sheboygan.
You
I
know,
think they're in the running
it's
now.
the
Yeah.
whole point of it. And as a Met fan right now, I'm not laughing at the Met fan. The Met fan has been through hell. I'm a Jet fan. I don't know how I'm a Yankee fan and a Jet fan, but that's what I am. Most Met fans are Jet fans. I understand the pain. They must be furious, but that's why you don't talk shit. You don't talk shit. You can't talk shit. All right. The second Soto was signed, they had the parade plan. Did I miss something, Benny, or was that basically the way
No, you missed nothing.
some people were talking? You don't do that. You just don't. I don't do that, and I'm a Yankee fan. I don't declare anything. Play the games. Prove it. Show me. I'm not going to claim anything's going to automatically happen or ha ha. We win now. We took your guy. Apparently, he was never our guy. He was a 1 year dude, and I'll remember him fondly for the 1 year. You move on. Who gives a shit? Move on. But as far as his money goes, what's Judge getting paid this year, Benny? What'd you say
40,
he's getting this year?
40
Soto?
mil.
Oh,
Soto's making with the proration of his signing bonus, 60. I think 61,875,000.
wow. That's insane. He's on pace for 24 home runs. How many RBIs does he got?
Maybe 75.
All right, 24.75 with a 228. Wow.
Yeah,
That's like a guy who hits like seventh in your lineup back in
that's
the
like
day if you
that's Tom Paciorek from the old
Yeah.
Dodgers.
Wow, that's rough, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not worth it. I mean, come on. None of them are worth it. I was looking at Reggie's contract. When we signed Reggie Jackson in 77, 5 years, 2.5 million in total. Benny, can that be right?
Oh,
He was getting half a million a year for 5 years. $2.5 million contract, 77.81. I think that's accurate. I was like, and look at this guy. What's he making that in a bat?
he's making about 400 grand per game,
Come on.
and that assumes
And
he plays all the games.
you know what though? At the end of the day, it's definitely it's greed's fault, and greed comes through the owners and through the players and through the union and all that other stuff. But we're the dumbasses that have been paying for this for decades. Not
but
me and you anymore. I mean, you go see minor league games or more quaint and reasonably afforded events. So do I. I don't go to the main stuff anymore. Who can
no,
afford
I
it?
won't. I won't do that. I won't do that. But I'm
Yeah.
thinking about back in the day in 55, 56. Mick wins the Triple Crown,
Yeah.
and he's waiting for his contract to come in the mail.
Right.
And I mean, by all rights, with Mantle's season in '56, was it when he won the Triple Crown?
Yep.
They should have offered him, I mean, part ownership of the team. And
What
I
do you get a
think they
pay
didn't
cut?
even offer him a raise.
Right. He had to fight for a raise. Didn't he hold out a little bit? Not like hold out into
And they
training or
gave him,
season,
they
but
gave him like, when we talk about a raise, they gave him maybe $5,000.
oh, it's a joke. It's a joke. And that's why it's no surprise to me when we have on Monty and the Pharaoh like a Tito Santana or whatever telling us how he was delivering packages while he was a main star. You know what I mean? Like, they these
Well,
guys weren't
I mean,
getting paid enough.
what's the incentive? If Soto's getting paid twice a month,
Yeah.
let's see, 24, he's getting like every 2 weeks, somebody's handing him a check for $2.5 million.
Yeah.
Where's the
You've,
incentive?
there is no incentive to get it's over. I mean, players used to have to, I saw somebody taking some real cheap shots at the old days. They were, this whole Met Soto banter on Facebook, and somebody was like, oh, yeah, you won 20 titles when farmers were playing the game. I'm like, farmers? The hell are you talking about? They were men from all different walks of life. They were grown men who threw hard and hit hard. What are you talking about? The championships that occurred. And by the way, since free agency's been around for the last 50 years, but I think this is the 50th anniversary of free agency. Guess who's also won the most championships? Pre-free agency, we know it's the Yankees. Guess who it is post-free agency? It's the
Same thing.
Yankees.
Yeah,
So what are you mad at us for always being the smartest?
right.
I'm not sure what you're mad at us for. We're really, really smart. We've
Well, I
always
mean,
had our
that
act
means
together.
that
Ever
all that
since
means
Babe
is
Ruth put on the
we
uniform, we figured it out.
yeah,
And
we
it's been that
we
way.
signed the best farmers then, right? Is that what it
Yeah.
is?
Yeah, and I'm
Back in the
trying to
day?
understand what do you mean by farmer when Joe DiMaggio's family came from a fisher port in the San Fray Bay, California.
Mantle came from a mining town right in Oklahoma.
Yeah, farmers. When farmers played the game, I found that to be like, oh no, you don't go around insulting many different backgrounds, do you?
I mean, you think organized
What?
baseball, even back in the 30s and 40s, organized baseball. I mean, every team had scouts, and they had. I mean, how many when Yogi got signed in the early 40s? I mean, how many
Yeah,
minor league teams did they have? I
yeah,
mean, they had
there
such
were.
an extensive farm system.
There was. I mean, you've heard the legendary stories of when the Yankees were scouting Joe DiMaggio and his brothers. They knew what was going on with the San Francisco Seals, who were prominent in that area.
Yeah,
Think about what year this is. We don't have the Dodgers and Giants over there yet, right?
nope. No, the
We got this.
Pacific Coast League
It's
in the mid 30s,
a
and I
big
think they
deal.
played like a 190 game schedule or something like
It was
that.
a big deal.
It was a very big deal.
Now, folks. And you know what else? That farmer's crack. So you want to tell me that today's athlete has the constitutional makeup of Ted Williams, who stopped everything what he was doing when he went in and became a fighter pilot in World War II and risked his life for the country and then came back and was just as great as he was before? The last man to hit 406? Oh, that farmer? Who are you
I
referring
mean,
to when you insult decades of greatness, whether it starts with Ty Cobb or goes through to Jackie Robinson or comes into the modern era? Well, who are you insulting? Who exactly are you pointing out with a stupid comment like that? I had to address that, Benny. I was like, what is
oh,
this?
you know that they're not Yankee fans.
Well, I challenged them. You're not even baseball fans. You make a comment like that because now you've insulted everybody who played from 1920 through 1960 or so. It's just like, excuse me?
Yeah, I mean, Carl Yastrzemski was like so heavily scouted, and in the late 50s, and kid from Long Island. Was it East Hampton? I think Long Island.
Right,
And
right.
his
Look,
parents wanted him to get $100,000, and I think the Yankees made a pretty decent offer. He was a hometown kid,
yeah,
but in the end,
yeah.
Boston
Who
got him.
would
And I mean,
and you can go into post free agency time period where the Yankee scouts were always the smartest. Who was the poor fella who stuck his neck out and told the Houston Astros that if you do not draft this kid Derek Jeter, I quit? and then they drafted Phil Nevin. Who was that scout? Because it was somebody that was, I think, Yankee connected, and he wound up, the Yankees wound up grabbing Jeter because the Tigers took Phil Nevin, or the Astros, or whoever it was that took Phil Nevin, or maybe even the Padres. I can't even remember. But the Yankees have always had the best scouting. They discovered Mariano when he was a teenager. Wasn't Mariano signed from like a very early age with the Yankees?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's just haters are gonna hate. That's all I can say.
Yeah,
But
but Soto's a miserable failure so far, and I don't miss him.
yeah,
And I actually don't. When I saw the generous offer they gave him, how can you be mad at the Yankees? I'm not mad at the Yankees. They offered him a shit ton.
you're being offered $750 million to play for the greatest team in the history of any professional sport, hitting in
Right.
front of an absolute, future legend, which means you are going to probably go to multiple World Series. You're gonna you're gonna have easily, have Hall of Fame stats, and you turn all that down for a few extra bucks.
Yeah, yeah. They could have been
Mind-boggling.
well. It's at different positions and stuff, but they could have been the Jeter A-Rod. They could have been the Garrick Root. They could have. Well, nobody's ever going to be Garrick and Root. But you
Yeah, the
understand what
M&M
I'm
boys
getting at.
almost,
They could have been a
Right.
real tandem. They could have been a real amazing tandem, and they really could have commercially. Could you imagine if they started doing commercials together? You know what I'm saying? They like that. My
Yeah.
God, the money and the fame that were coming that way. If he had chosen that way, and I still believe, like at the end of the day, he would have a better chance. He's already been to a World Series with us. He experienced it. What, you can't
Right.
get back again at your age, at Aaron's age?
And then you're
course
you're
you
the
can.
odds-on favorite for the next 10 years to go in another World Series every year.
Right.
I mean, you can't say that with the Mets. Who they're going, they're going to get past the Dodgers.
What was George's greatest regret? It's on record. Letting Reggie go. Because he had Winfield and Jackson together, and what happened? Notice the parallel I'm going to draw here. What happened? They were together for 1 year, and they lost the World Series to the Dodgers. Okay? And George let Reggie go. Reggie responded with a 39-101 season or whatever, 39 homers, 100, whatever. It was Reggie. He was still Reggie. Came back to Yankee Stadium and put one in the upper deck off Guidry, if I remember. Got a standing ovation. And Steinbrenner said it was the greatest mistake he ever made. Soto may very well have just done the same thing, but at least this time, the Steinbrenner did not make the mistake of he tried to keep him. He tried to keep him. Because if Winfield and Jackson had stayed together, I do wonder about what would have happened in the next few years. There were teams that won the World Series that I feel like a Winfield Jackson with a good, strong pitching rotation, and they had just discovered Righetti's a good closer. They were about to discover that. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what could have happened? They might have been able to win one in 82 or 83, or maybe even 85 with Winfield and Jackson and Mattingly.
And
Because we never got
Johnny
to see
he
Winfield
would have
and
got his ring.
Jackson. Imagine if we had Winfield and Jackson and Mattingly, and then you get Ricky Henderson. Who knows? George, one wrong move, and George always said it. It was the worst move he ever did. He broke
At
up
least he
what
owned
got to
it.
the World Series.
All right. I'm going to have to put my glasses. Well, I have my glasses on here, but here we go. Got my notebook and my pen.
All right.
And so I'll read out the stats. So we
Batter
got
up.
the batter up. Yeah.
So
There we
hit it.
Hit it like you just
Hit
did.
it.
All right. So
Yeah.
1950, we got the 54 Indians, 75, and they are the Indians in 54.
And what was their record?
Since,
What was their record?
they were 111 and 43, I believe.
Surpassing the
75
27
Reds.
Yankees.
You got the 2001 Mariners. 116 and 46.
Yeah.
And the 98 Yankees who were 114 and 48. I think the 75 Reds were 108 and 54. So 54 Indians. You got Vic. We're going first base first. Vic Wertz, 14 homers, 48 ribbies, 275. You got for the 75 Reds, you got the RBI machine, Tony Perez, 20 homers, 109 ribbies, 282. 2001 M's, you got Olerud, 2195, 302. And in 98 Yankees, you got Tino, 28, 123, 281.
All right. Well, I'm still going to give this to Tino.
Yeah, I got to give it to Tino.
I'm giving this to Tino. Just watched him launch a World Series home run on YouTubeage. It was a big one. Remember the one he hit off Langston?
Yeah.
Upper deck. Into the upper deck. Grand slam, by the way, in the World Series. And guess who had homered before him to like turn it into a ball game? A little scrapper named Chuck Knobloch, who we'll get to soon.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, Tino's going to be first. Now the struggle, of course, starts between Tony Perez and John Olerud. Did Olerud win a Gold Glove this particular year?
Let me.
I don't think so, because I think I
I'm
noticed on
gonna
the
say
grid.
no, but I'm gonna double check.
I think I noticed on the grids before we came on air that you did mention GG for Gold Glove next to some of these stats and other things. But
I don't think I think I started it, but let's
okay,
see.
well, I love the idea though, Benny. So that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I know how great
No.
Olerud was defensively.
Made the All-Star team. He won the Gold Glove 2 years after that.
Okay, all right, all right. Then second has to be Tony, because after all, Tony is the RBI machine. Tony is the Hall of Famer, and Tony does have him beat outside of batting average, right, Ben? But that's why I was just curious as to whether or not Olerud collected a Gold Glove that year, because John Olerud was a really, really great hitter and defensive player. He was fantastic. He also wore the batting helmet, correct, on the
Right.
field.
He
Yeah.
retired with a lifetime 295 average, and let's
Mm-hmm.
see, 3 Gold Gloves, 2 World Series, batting
Yeah.
title.
Okay.
Nice career.
What was his home run RBI-age?
255 homers. He wasn't a big home runner, but 1230 in ribbies.
How many hits?
2239. Never struck out. No, he did. No, he never struck out 100 times. His highest total looks like 96.
Yeah, I didn't think he did much striking out. I guess he needed to compile more, but he's pretty close, as far
Nice.
as
1993. He came in third in the MVP. He was 24, 107, and he won the batting title with a 363 batting average.
363.
Yep. That's a great ball player.
Yeah, no, he was a great ball player. I'm wondering if he's Hall of Fame level. I think if he had retired with a 300 average, then I would be very much more passionate about it. But if I can argue for the offensive stats of people like Donnie Baseball and Keith Hernandez, the Olerud's in the conversation. You got a 295 lifetime career hitter with 255 home runs, over 1,200 RBIs, a bunch of Gold Gloves, championships. He was championship. The 363 batting average, that's insane. He was great. He was great. Did he do enough? You know what? I've seen others who did less than him that are in already. How about
I mean,
that?
if I found out he got voted in, I wouldn't,
No, I
bother me
wouldn't
a
bat
bit.
an eye. No, I
No,
wouldn't bat an eye.
absolutely
No,
not.
excellent play. All right, so I'm going to put him third. Oddly enough, with all the praise we've just heaped upon him, and he deserves it all, he's third. And the guy who hit the ball, not the American Dream, Dusty Rose, the guy who hit the ball to Willie, right?
Vic Wertz.
Yeah, he's four. At least he didn't embarrass himself with like a 225 batting average, though. I'll give him that.
No, Wertz was a solid ball player. All
It
right.
hurts to put down words.
Yeah. All righty. This should be second base is interesting here. So we got 54. We got Bobby Avila, 15 homers, 67 ribbies, 341 batting average.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think let me
impressive.
I think
Very
Avila
impressive.
came in very close in the MVP.
With a batting average like that, how couldn't he?
Bobby
That's
Avila, let's
outstanding.
see. Avila was he won the batting title that year.
Okay.
And he came in third in the MVP.
What kind of career did he have as far as his overall numbers? Do you have that on the screen, or do you need to punch that
No,
in?
he was solid. I mean, he didn't play long. He was out of the game he came up late too. He didn't play his first full season until he was 27, but he retired with a 281 average, 80 homers, 467 ribbies, 1,296 hits. He had a couple other good seasons. Came in 10th in the MVP voting in 51. He was 10, 58, and 304. Solid ball player. Played third for the second for the Indians for looks like almost 10 years.
And then that was it. What? I wonder why he started so late. Very interesting.
I think a lot of these guys, like we were talking about, these farm systems were so developed back then. I mean, and you
Yeah.
really, I mean, getting through it, you didn't get like the fast track. I mean, that was few and far between.
Right.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
the prodigies were few and far between for sure. You
made it.
definitely had to
Yeah.
work your way up.
So all right, second base we got 75 Joe Morgan, 17 94, 327
Oh, man.
MVP. Yeah.
Okay.
But now this is interesting though. Brett Boone, 37,
There it is.
141,
Yeah, what a season.
331 average.
Yep. That's monstrous, and he was
Mind
monstrous.
boggling.
Yes, he was monstrous that year. He was monstrous that year.
And Knobloch with very pedestrian 17 64 265, which is not a bad season by any account.
No, and I just mentioned to you, I just watched him hitting a home run in the World Series. You know what I'm saying? We all know that Chuck was, well, we don't all know, but I know how clutch Chuck Knobloch was. Oh, boy. Look, I don't know if you're going to agree with me here. Even though it was an MVP season for Joe Morgan, and I know exactly what Joe Morgan was, I refuse to look past the season that Boone had.
No, that's like monstrous. That's
I
ungodly.
refuse. Yeah, I refuse. Look at that. That's ridiculous. That's number one. Joe is number two. I'm still going to give it to Joe over that beautiful, what was it, 341 batting average?
But yeah,
I'm
Bobby
still
Abiola.
giving it to Joe. It pained me to not give Joe number one, but I cannot ignore that season that Boone had. I can't.
I
Chuck's
forgot
gonna.
that Boone had that season.
I didn't. I really didn't, to be very honest. I just didn't know where it occurred for sure. I knew that it was in the early 2000s. I knew that, and I also know this too for sure. Brett Boone might be the worst color commentator I ever heard in my life, and thank God the network realized it immediately, and you really haven't heard from him since.
And it wasn't a fluke because 2 years later in
Yeah.
2003, his line was 35, 117, 294, and he won the Gold Glove.
Yeah, he really. And if I might be wrong, but if you look at his career, there was like a clump of greatness, and then it's not there anymore. He's
I
got
mean,
one of those.
yeah.
Does he have that? Whether like there's a clump in like he starts his
Well,
career and
he's
then it's
got he's got the 2001. He's got the 37, 141,
right. But
331.
what was before that though? Like all of a sudden
Yeah,
there's this
I mean, nothing really. He
right.
had a
All of a
uh,
sudden there's this monstrous producer, and how long does that go for, Ben? Not
well,
long.
it really a 3-season run. He's
Right.
37, 141,
Mm-hmm.
24, 107,
Mm-hmm.
35, 117,
Lovely.
and then he drops down to 24, 83, and
And then
he's out
what?
of baseball the next season.
Right. Right. It gets weird. It gets weird. Now, I don't know if he was ever listed on steroid stuff, but I do remember looking at his forearms and going, you gotta be taking
Yeah.
something.
No, I
But either
completely.
way.
One of the things I love doing about doing this show is the
Yeah.
research, and I like, oh shit, I forgot all about that. I forgot
Yeah.
that guy had that season.
Yeah, I do remember it because the Mariners, to their credit, starting with the 95 upset of us in the wild card round, uh, they were a problem. They were a nemesis of ours. They were. The Seattle Mariners, I could definitely say, were a rival. You know what I mean? And we dealt with them several times during our playoff runs over those years, whether it bridged from Showalter to Torrey. But we saw the Mariners a few times in the playoffs, and they were definitely our rivals for shit, sure. I didn't like them. Did you like the Seattle Mariners? I got up
No,
to the games where we played the Seattle Mariners. They had Randy Johnson. They had Edgar Martinez. They had Ken Griffey Jr. And oddly enough, and I'll see if I'm right about this, I don't even think Ken Griffey Jr. is on the team, on this team. If he is,
no,
God,
no. You're correct.
yeah, he's not even there. That's how good this Seattle Mariners team was because Griffey Jr. is not even there. But it goes to show how powerful they were getting up to this point when they did have Griffey Jr. and Buhner and Edgar Martinez and a bunch of other ball players who, as we review them, will go, "Oh shit, yeah, that guy too," and Randy Johnson.
I think I feared
Yeah.
Edgar more than anybody on that team, just because you knew that like he was going to do damage every time he got up.
Edgar was the physically larger version of Paul Molitor as far as being a professional hitter, if you know what I'm getting at.
Yes.
Paul Molitor was like a robot up there, man. He'd just get up there. He had the most mechanical way of doing things. Bang, 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 all day long. Molitor. Machine. Same thing with Martinez. I definitely feared Edgar Martinez, but I will be honest. There is nobody that ever wore a Seattle Mariner jersey that I feared more and saw him do it to us in person than Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah.
I did not want to see him at the plate at all. Buhner, I always was fearful of, but I knew that we had a shot at striking him out. It's very hard to strike out Ken Griffey Jr. in a clutch spot, at least from what I remember. I was like,
I, I hear you. I hear you.
yeah. But Edgar is the last guy you probably really want to pitch to. If you're talking about the object of getting a hit, it's probably Edgar.
Right. No, I agree. I agree. So
Dangerous
let's move on
team.
to third,
Yeah.
the hot corner here. Oh no, we've got
But
shortstop.
real quick, Benny, though, before we jump, Chuck wound up in fourth, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we got Boone first. We got Morgan second. We got Bobby Avila third. Man, pretty sad when you got a 341 batting average and you're 3 out of 4, and then you got Knobloch.
Right. Hey, I'll take any one of them. They're going to help you win a title. They're well, not necessarily for 1954 or 2001.
Right.
How you like that?
Yeah, right.
That's weird. Great players, though. All great players.
All righty. The shortstop, we got for the 54 Indians, George Strickland, 6 homers, 37 ribbies, 213 average. He became the hall monitor in the movie Back to the Future after that, Mr. Strickland.
What? Really?
No.
I would believe it with a batting average like that.
Yeah, maybe.
What are you talking about?
He used to always give Marty McFly the late passes.
Oh, I figured you were going to tell me he wound up with a job at Dollar General as the greeter.
Yeah. Let me give you a nickel's worth of free advice. 75, Dave Concepcion, very underrated ball player, 549, 274, won the Gold Glove.
Okay.
2001 M's, Carlos Guillen, 553, 259. And, of course, Jeter, 1984, 324.
Well, Jeter walks away with it, and Concepcion is second. Right off the bat, right?
Yeah, and I mean, this kind of plays out, and then Guillen would be third, and Strickland. This is an easy one.
Yeah, it is an easy one.
Yeah,
I like how Derek Jeter just walks away with it every time, though. Let's not let that get lost.
No, all we got to do is figure out who's second through fourth.
Right, and oddly enough, it's the guy who should be in the Hall of Fame, Dave Concepcion.
Right.
The more and more I look into it. By the way, I didn't even realize this either. When I mentioned Toby Harrah the last time we were talking about shortstops, little did I realize that Toby Harrah hit a lot of home runs in his career. I thought that he was just like a year or two or something. He had over 200 career home runs himself. He was a multiple-time All-Star. I'm like, wait a minute, he came to us for one season and stunk. I guess that was very impressionable to as a young kid. But I digress.
No, Toby was a good ball player.
Yeah, he was.
All right.
213. What? But you know what's bothering me though? This name George Strickland. I feel like I've heard it before, and he was there more with this guy. If you can indulge me, what kind of career did George Strickland have?
George Strickland.
Because I feel
why am I thinking that this guy was a manager at some point? But let me.
There's something about his name that is saying to me I should know who this is. But when
not much of it. Well, you stuck around in the bigs for 10 years.
All right.
He was lifetime 224 average.
Oh, he's terrible.
Terrible. No Gold Gloves, no All Stars.
Did he ever win a ring?
No, he won nothing. Best average. He hit. Wow, this is odd. Like he's got a 216, 188, 177, 216, 213, 209, 211. But then in 1953, he hit 284. Go figure. Yeah.
Wow.
Just that one season.
He was never a coach or a manager after that? I feel like I've heard his name.
Yes, he was, because that's why you heard the name.
Right.
But I mean, this is before your time, though.
There's a lot of things before my time I know a lot about through my, reading up on it, or my dad or my grandfather or whatever telling me stories about these guys because they saw them. But
Yeah, Strickland managed the Cleveland Indians for, let's see. Yeah, it's funny. He must have been an interim manager because it looks like 64, he managed him for 72 games.
okay.
And it looks like he got fired because he was the first of two managers. And then he took over for somebody in 66.
Huh.
He's for somebody else who got fired. Maybe
That's
Bertie
weird.
Tubbets. If I had to guess. But yeah, he managed a total of 112 games in the big leagues.
All right. I was hoping you were telling me he was a manager somewhere for like a decade. I would have been like, okay, that's why I remember him. I don't know.
No, I knew that he did something. I just, I kind of figured maybe he was a manager, but yeah.
I'll tell you what he did. He didn't hit for average.
No. He was like maybe the precursor. Remember Eddie Brinkman? For the old Senators? Yeah. Guy was great fielding shortstop.
Yeah. Or Belanger, like we covered with his.
Belanger, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. His horrible batting average.
But man, could he couple granite short? So, all right.
I was thinking more about that too, Benny. I think a lot of that had to do with the way you described Mark Belanger, because he was very tall and he's very long. His arms were long, his legs were long. That was probably half the reason he didn't have to dive for anything, because he could reach it and he had great instinct.
Right.
So I think his body frame worked well for him not having to dive.
He was good enough to stick around. I mean,
yeah, 8 Gold Gloves, like you said.
On those great seasons, on those great teams, rather. So third base, we got Al Rosen, the great Al Rosen, 24 homers, 102 ribbies, 300 average. You got 75. You got Pete Rose, 774, 317. 2001, you get David Bell, 1564, 260, and 98. I love this season. Brocious, 1998 and 300. What a great season that was.
It really was a great season for him. It was a perfect season for Scott Brocious. It came out of nowhere too, because Brocious never put up those sorts of numbers.
No.
And then he was a postseason hero as well. Did Al Rosen win the MVP in 1954?
Don't think so.
In the American League?
They had quite a few guys like that placed in the MVP.
Yeah, definitely check that for me. For some reason, or maybe it's just the RBI total that I remember more so impressively. But for some reason, I thought he might have been a candidate or a winner.
No, Rosen was 15th in the MVP.
Oh, he was only 15th. Okay. So read me his numbers one more time before I make the call here.
It's really funny. Real quick, you had two pitchers who were 5th and 6th in the MVP. You had one who was 19th. You had the runner-up. You had the third place. You had and number 15. And you had 7 guys who were in the top 25 in the MVP for that.
Wow.
Yeah. Rosen was 24, 102, 300.
It's going to Brocious. Brocious won the World Series MVP that year. It's going to Brocious. The numbers he's not running away with it. You know what I mean? I've been consistent on my train of thought. He's not running away with it statistically. He's not smoking Scott in any category. They both hit 300, correct?
Yeah.
Brocious is 2 RBI short of 100. And what does he have? 111? Okay, he's got 111 RBIs. Brocious has almost 100. Brocious hit 19 home runs to 25. Whatever.
No, Rosen had a 102. I mean, so they were close, within 4.
Right. 98 to 102. Perfect. Even better. Even better. Even with 111, I'm still giving it to Brocious.
Yeah.
Brocious knocked in almost 100 runs, hit 300, and won the World Series MVP. It's about the season. It's about the season.
Yeah.
And how many rings did Scott wind up with? 3, right? Because when we got him, Boggsy got the first one. Boggs was the third baseman on 96, but then comes Scott. Scott's here for what, 5 years, 97 to 2001 or so? Something like that. I think Scott and Paul left after 2001. We lost Brocious and O'Neill. I remember that. I was like, oh, God, what's going on here? You know, I think they
Brocious,
both. He retired,
three
didn't he?
World Series. Yep.
Yeah, he
Brocious
got three.
retired at 34.
Yeah, he walked away, and he was still good. You know, but this was his season. Brocious never had a year like this before or after. This was his season, and he got the World Series MVP, and he was hitting home runs in the World Series. No, no, no. It's Brocious, then it's Rosen. And part of me wants to give it to Pete over Rosen, but I'm not going to get stupid or carried away here. That but look up for me and entertain me. How many hits did Pete Rose have this year when he hit what 317? Am I seeing that right?
Yeah, let me. I'm gonna
What?
guess 215.
Oh God! If he did it again, then we're going to have a little conversation, you and me.
70, 210 hits.
Okay, Betty. So here's a question. We love to say this all the time in our casual conversations when we're not on the air. You got two guys standing in front of you. You got the 1954 Al Rosen, who's going to give you those numbers and hit 300. It's going to give you the clear 100 RBI. Or you have Pete Rose, who you're going to insert to be a troublemaker and a table setter and a hit machine and a rabble rouser and a terror on the base paths and he's never going to hurt you in the field and he runs 1,000 miles an hour. Are you going to pick Al Rosen from 54? Or are you going to pick Pete Rose from 1975? And I'm picking Pete Rose.
No brainer.
I know that the numbers are a little more impressive in the home run and RBI category, but I'm still picking
Yeah,
Pete
but
Rose.
Rose led the league in doubles with 47. He led the league in runs scored with 112 runs scored.
Yeah.
Played every game.
Yeah.
His on base is 406.
Right.
Great. I mean,
You see,
that's
this is what happens when and these the players are not the same, but this is what happens when you put Ty Cobb against Ralph Kiner. Who are you going to take? I'm taking Ty Cobb. You know how small the list is of people I would pick over Ty Cobb? The baseball player, and we're going to get to one of those later. I think his name is Ichiro.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going with the baseball player. Then Al. Sorry, Al. What a season for Al. Oh, what a season for his club. But no, not the big red machine. Not the hit guy in the history of this business. You want to know who the real hitman is in this business? Is Pete Rose. And his very similar distant cousin named Ty Cobb. My
Right.
God. These guys were all about getting on base, scoring runs. That's the big premise of
So we
baseball
got
when
we
it
got
comes down to it.
Brocious,
Yeah.
Rosen, and then we got David Bell.
Oh, that's a nice rosy list. That works for me.
Yeah. All right.
By the way, I don't know if you can hear it, but it's like Black Sabbath's debut album right now, the way it's thundering and raining on my
Oh,
studio.
I'm not far behind. You got the same thing over here, so we may lose power. Who knows?
Yeah. Oh, we're doing good.
So far so good. Let me.
Yeah.
All right, left field. We got it on. We got to move one over. Here we go. All right, left field. We got Al Smith.
Okay.
11 homers, 50 ribbies, 281 average.
Nice.
75 Reds, George Foster, 23, 78, 300. You
Nice.
got the 2001 M's, you got Al Martin, 742, 240. And you got Chad Curtis, 1056, 243.
Wow, what a blasé list outside of George Foster. George Foster wins, correct?
Oh, yeah, yeah. You got Smith second because of the average.
Yes. So what does that leave us with? Well, of course, as usual, there's Chad like at the bottom, but who's he up
Well,
against there?
I think Chad gets it over Martin. Martin's 742, 240.
Yeah.
Chad's 1056, 243.
Yeah, and Chad was a problem in the postseason. He was clutch, which shouldn't be forgotten. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
we got Chad third.
Hey, what do you know? Chad didn't lose this one. Way to go, Chad.
All right.
Chad's been like Frank Williams so far. You know what I'm saying? Not
Oh, yeah.
anymore. Not anymore.
All right. Center field. Got some outrageous stats here in center field. Larry Doby for the 54 Indians, 32 homers, 126 RBI,
Go, baby.
272 average.
Nice.
Yep. Cesar Geronimo, 653, 257.
All right.
2001 M's, Mike Cameron, 25 homers, 110 ribbies, 267 average, and the Gold Glove.
Mm-hmm.
And then 98, you got Bernie with 26, 97, and 339.
And the batting title.
And the batting title.
Give me one again. Category, the first guy.
Oh, Doby?
Yes.
And Doby came in. Doby was runner-up for the MVP that year.
Okay.
So you know.
Okay.
Doby, 32, 126, 272.
He has to come before Bernie's batting title. He has to. He was the runner-up in the MVP, and I don't know what took so long for Larry. My dad used to tell me all about Larry Doby. Don't forget, yes, we're New Yorkers, and my dad grew up in the Bronx and was a Yankee fan. But you know, his wife, my future mom, you know, blah blah blah, was from Brooklyn. My father knew all about Jackie Robinson, but it was Larry Doby because he's a Yankee fan. He used to go to Yankee Stadium and watch the Indians come in. He would talk to me much more about Larry Doby than Jackie. Oddly enough, Benny, and this should make sense, right? When you think about it, he's a Yankee fan going to work and then going to go see ball games and stuff. He's hitting up the Bronx. He's watching
Right.
who the Yankees are playing. They're playing the Indians. You know, so a lot of memories of Larry Doby got transferred to me, and I don't know what took so long to get him in the Hall of Fame, but I think he's finally there, right? But got to give him this season. Look at that
Yeah,
season.
and by the way, Bernie did win the batting title and a Gold Glove that year. So,
Oof, you're making this worse for me. You know, because I do have that much respect for Larry Doby. And again, if you want to get back to the simple premise, you've got this year's Larry Doby versus that year's Bernie Williams. Either way, you're going to win. You know, as far as getting a great player, but I got to go with Doby that year. I have to. It's
yeah,
painful, but how many more home runs does he have than Bernie that season? Please tell me.
32 versus 26. Ribbies,
Okay.
though, Ribbies 126 versus 97.
He's got him by almost 30 RBIs and 6 home runs, and he was the runner-up in the MVP, so it tells you where he was that year for the league.
Yeah,
Where
Doby,
was,
yeah.
where was Bernie in the MVP voting in 98? That's a rough one. I'm sorry, Benny, but I'm curious.
Bernie was only 7th.
He was 7th in the MVP. It just goes to show, you know, I mean, yeah, I have to give it to Doby. I'm giving it to Doby. It hurts, but I'm going to do it. Bernie would be 2nd.
Doby, Bernie, and then Cameron, right? After that?
Yes. Cameron's a bit underrated, my friend. You know? Pretty good ball player. Pretty good career.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Did a lot. Great defensively. Incredibly defensively. I wonder how many Gold Gloves that guy won. He was great.
Mike Cameron. One of those names you forget about until you do the research. Like, I remember that guy.
Wow, Benny, I'm sorry. It is pouring unbelievably right now. I probably can't even hear you at this point. Can't make it up, bro. I'm hoping it calms down.
Yeah, Cameron won 3 Gold Gloves. Nice career.
Yeah.
Not a high average guy, but let's see, 278, 968. Not bad.
Okay.
Not
278 home runs, and he almost got 1,000 RBIs.
Almost 1,000, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we'll
better
step it
than
up
we
a bit.
remember.
See if we can finish this here. Left field, or right field rather. All right, right field.
What was the final order on the center field?
Okay. Let me go back. Hang on.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't get the way it just was a minute ago, I might be fine.
You got Doby number 1, you got Bernie number 2, Cameron number 3, and you got Cesar number 4.
Yeah, Cesar with the crappy batting average. Sorry, Cesar.
Yeah, and no power. All right. Here and right, we got Dave Philly, 12 homers, 60 ribbies, 226. You got Griffey with 4 homers, 46 ribbies, 305. Then I didn't even put all I put was Ichiro. No last name necessary. 869, 350. And you got O'Neill with 24, 116, 317.
Wow. How many hits did Ichiro have that year?
I knew you were going to ask that.
Yeah. My God.
This was the first of 10 consecutive 200,
200.
200. This is a rookie.
Right.
242 hits, with 56 stolen bases. Won the
Yeah.
MVP. He
Yeah.
won the MVP, the Rookie
Yeah.
of the Year, and the Gold Glove.
Well, gee, I wonder who's number one.
Yeah.
And then Paul's number two. And that
Well,
guy with the 226 batting average resides in the basement. Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Griffey with a solid 305 in the third place, but
Yeah. Ken Griffey Sr. Great average hitter.
yeah, not really a lot of power, but a
No.
solid hitter though.
Oh, excellent batting average year after year after year.
Yep.
And Ichiro was another Ty Cobb. Ichiro was another. He really was. He was another Ty Cobb or a Pete Rose or whatever. The guy was a terror. Everything he did, dude. That arm. What about the arm Ichiro had? The throwing arm.
So Ichiro, Rookie of the Year, MVP that season, won a Gold Glove, won one of his 2 batting titles, and one of his 10 Gold Gloves.
Right.
Unreal.
Yeah.
To think he came to the Mariners as a 27-year-old rookie.
Right. Right. And they gave him Rookie of the Year and gave him all these awards. And then when Matsui came over to play for the Yankees, they said that he wasn't a rookie.
It's really, I'm looking at it. Even in 2009, he missed 16 games.
Yeah.
And he still had 225 hits.
It's absurd. He really was like a Ty Cobb or a Pete Rose. He just hit. And
He's another one, for whatever reason, you get the Facebook idiots who say he's overrated.
In what way is he overrated? Where do you have him?
He was a slap hitter.
So?
Yeah, so was Pete Rose. So was a lot of guys.
Something wrong with being a contact hitter with an insanely high batting average that does the object of baseball to you idiots out there that do make the comments that Benny just mentioned. The object is to hit the ball and get on base. If everybody who comes to the plate just gets on base by hitting the ball where the defenders are not, you know what the final score is? It's infinity to nothing. So the object is to hit the ball. If it goes over the fence, great. But if your batting average is 350 and you had how many hits that year? And you won Rookie of the Year? And he did this
42.
He did this for 10 consecutive seasons where he had over 200 hits. That's absolutely insane. He's there. He's in the conversation with the Tony Gwynns as far as being able to get the F on base. Or Wade Boggs. Look, if you want a hit, if you need a hit, Ichiro is the guy. So I don't care what his methods were. We watched guys who would put their foot up in the air and swing the bat. We watched guys who would torque their thumb. Mike Hargrove's lifetime batting average was very impressive. People did weird shit.
The human rain delay.
Yeah, the object is to get the fuck on base.
Right. Well, and P.S. if Ichiro slaps a single, by the way, who's better than him at stealing second?
Oh, come on. He had 56 steals that year?
Right.
Look,
and oh, by the way, you're trying to score from third on a short fly to right field. Who's going to gun you down at home plate?
Let's not forget what it takes to be able to walk into another culture and play baseball so comfortably on a level that we haven't seen in decades. Let's not forget that.
No, the guy was a generational player, and I mean, honestly, I think if he came up as a 22-year-old, we're talking about a new hit king, right?
Yeah, probably. He probably would have wound up with the most hits.
In all likelihood.
He looked good in He looked good in pinstripes, even though he was older.
Right.
I mean,
he was a ball player.
At least he wore the pinstripes, and he did nothing to embarrass himself. I was just like, it's Ichiro, man. Any great team should want to have one of. Don't forget too, when people make such short-sighted comments about what kind of player you were. 1 through 9 historically requires different kinds of hitters. Agreed?
Yeah.
Every team should want to have an Ichiro or someone who does something like that. We were talking earlier about ball players like Kenny Lofton or Brett Butler, guys who were scrappy, guys who got on base, guys who made things happen. Every team should want someone like that in their lineup. It's also what you do for the team and what kind of hitter you are. So Ichiro is not underrated at all. As a matter of fact, he was the prototype of what a table setter slash game changer can do. And that's exactly what he was. He was someone who made stuff happen. And if you had other good ball players around him, all he would be doing all day long is either knocking someone in or scoring a run himself.
He
So,
upset the balance. He disturbed the other team. He got
yeah.
them out of their rhythm.
Well, you know who was the greatest at that in our lifetime was Ricky. When Ricky Henderson was the Steel King and was stealing 100, what was the one year? 126, whatever it was. He stole so many bases, it was mind boggling. And he could hit for average and he could hit for power, and he was just running at will. Well, you got somebody like that. I think Ricky is still the greatest terror I've ever seen come through.
Oh yeah.
What was that? You know, when he showed up, I'm like, what is this? I mean, before him, Lou Brock was the Steel King, and Maury Wills was really respected because I think Brock broke Will's record or whatever it was. And then all of a sudden, Ricky comes along. Do we even talk about Lou Brock anymore or about stolen bases or anything? We don't even. Ricky was so great that it's Ricky and everybody else,
Yeah, you got to
right?
be great to put Luke Brock in the rearview mirror there
Yeah,
because he was a great ball player.
yeah,
All righty, moving on to catcher, Jim Hegan,
yeah.
1140 and 234. I think he was a bullpen coach for the Yankees, wasn't he, back in the day?
I think you're correct. During the '70s.
And
Yep,
his son played for the Yankees, Mike.
yep.
75 Johnny Bench, 28 110,
Huh,
283 won the Gold Glove.
there he is. There he is.
2001 M's Wilson 1042 265 and
Hmm.
Jorge with 1763 268.
Let's get the guy who should be in the. I mean, the guy who was in the Hall of Fame out of the way, and the guy who should be in the Hall of Fame out of the way because it's
One, so
Bench.
you got 1 2, you got Bench
Yeah,
Jorge,
it's
and then
Bench and Georgie.
we give
Um,
Wilson number 3.
yeah,
Yeah, I can live with
yeah,
that.
we'll go with that. And by the way, that's why when we put the '76 Reds in previous competition up against the '98 Yankees, that I was very puzzled by Johnny's season. This is a Johnny season. You know, oddly enough, when the '76 World Series came, Johnny Bench was Johnny Bench as great as could be. But this is a Johnny Bench season because in '76 he hit 234, from what I remember you reading to me. You
Yeah,
know,
he had enough. Now,
he,
this is
he
very ironic. You know,
yeah.
Hegan with his 11 homers, 40 ribbies, and his 234 average
Hmm.
comes in 22nd in the MVP voting.
I
Interesting,
guess it was.
right?
Well, it must have been a day where writers were focusing more. He must have been an excellent defensive player and worked great with his pitching staff. So
Yeah.
I guess those were people, those were writers that were looking at it like, wow, he really accomplished a lot and gave him credit for it. Interesting, as I told you earlier today, I don't think Kenny Lofton made it past the first ballot before he was dropped. And yet you were talking about writers who back in this time period were like, wow, did you see what Hegan did? Like, where's that for Kenny Lofton that he's bounced off
Well,
the first ballot?
I
You
think
know,
Hegan's reputation was, he handled a very, very good, which we'll get to in a minute, pitching staff.
right,
They had a really,
right.
really good pitching staff, and
Yeah, Lofton was
Hegan was the
abrasive.
man.
Lofton was abrasive as a person, so I could see the media holding him ill will. But when you've got over 600 steals in your career, and you always played on big time teams, and you were always in the postseason, and you had like the 299 lifetime batting average, which annoys me. One more point, Benny, and who knows how they're looking at Kenny
Maybe it
Lofton.
changes the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, but and with all these fancy stats they have today that I do my best not to pay attention to, but according to the fancy stats of today, Kenny Lofton is actually one of the 10 greatest center fielders in the history of the game with his 2,400 hits and over 600 stolen bases, which I don't think too many others have accomplished that either. To
Yeah.
have over 2,400 hits and 600 steals and this 300 basically batting average. And Kenny always played on good teams. from what I remember. Kenny was on the Indians when they were good. Kenny was on the Braves when they were relevant. Kenny was on with us when we were fighting for pennants and stuff. Kenny was always playing high pressure baseball. So I'm not sure how you fall off on the first ballot, but eventually we're going to have a show on that, Benny. We gotta. Guys that fell off the first ballot, and it's like, WTF. What the fudge?
Yeah, Lofton, 4 Gold Gloves, right?
Yeah.
4 Gold Gloves,
Mm-hmm.
299 average,
Yeah.
2,400 hits,
Yeah.
622 steals,
Yeah.
multiple All
How
Stars.
many?
Let's see, 6.
6-time All-Star, 4 Gold Gloves, 600 plus steals, 2,400 plus career hits, 299 career batting average. Played on nothing but top tier teams in playoff pressure packed moments. Go on.
No,
How many
and
runs? How many runs did he score in his career? How many runs did Kenny Lofton score in his career?
Kenny Lofton scored. Let's see,
Oh, I can't wait to hear this number.
1,528. Very.
I overestimated just a touch. I thought to myself, he's got to be somewhere near 1,600, but I don't feel bad about what you just read me. That's a lot of runs, Benny. Add the runs he scored. You're the accountant, Doug. You don't have to. Add the runs he scored to the RBIs he knocked in. What? What? That's a lot,
You're
man.
talking about that's 2,300.
Yeah, that's a lot of baseball being played there by that guy, and excellent defensively. Bit of a head case, bit emotional, but I want someone like that. I do. Every team should have a bit of a loose cannon, whether it's a Paul O'Neill or a kook like a Lenny Dykstra, a little scrap guy for the '86 Mets or whatever. You know.
You put the guy out, and he does what he's supposed to do, though. I mean, that bottom line.
Yeah.
All right, we got the bench, not Johnny.
Real quick though, the recap for the catchers, please, for the audience at home.
Sure. Yeah, we got Johnny Bench number 1. You got Jorge number 2. We got Mr. Wilson 3, and we got Mr. Hegan number 4.
Right.
All right.
I'm good with that.
All right, the bench. Now,
Okay,
this is kind of
wait. Before we start the bench, we're going to add Darryl Strawberry's numbers.
All right.
Which makes it 47,205. I've got this memorized, Benny.
All right. So you got the now, I guess in fairness though, we got to add Edgar's stats to the M's, right?
Oh, you better. You're gonna have to. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
the premise stays the same no matter what. Yeah.
54 innings, 28, 154, 263. Not bad. This surprises me. 75 Reds, bench 14, 137, 236 average.
Yeah. Pretty
now
cool.
We got for the M's, we got 18, 148, and 270. But let me do this.
Oh, that's gonna change big time.
Yeah. Edgar was a masher.
18, 128. Is that what you said?
Let's see. So Edgar was wow.
Yeah.
23, 116.
Okay.
Which actually so 23, 116, and they are at 23, so it'll be 41, 264.
What's the bench's batting average? Just do an estimate. I know Edgar had a great batting average, and he's going to raise their poor bench batting average up. Just take a guess.
Yeah, I mean, Edgar hit that year. He hit the 306.
Okay.
So you give me. I'm going to say that's going to put him up to about 280.
Nice. Okay. All right.
And you said we got Straw was what, 24 homers or what?
24.57. So we're 47,205, and the average is around 276 or so for the bench with Darryl's 259.
Kind of neck and neck between us and the M's.
Right. Oh man. All right. So one more time, and I apologize, folks, but give me the M's total to the Yankees total one more time.
41, 264. You know, it's a good. The year before, Martinez who was 37, 145 as a DH, and he hit 324.
41, 264 versus 47, 205, and they're both similar. No, it's the Mariners.
Name an average. Yeah.
It's the Mariners. The Mariners take it. Yeah, and you know what? It makes sense, and I'll tell you why. because the benches are comparative, and then when you add 1998 Darryl Strawberry, it usually tilts in the past shows we've done in favor of the Yankees. But in this case, his counterpart is Edgar Martinez. You know what I'm getting at? So if a bench is running neck and neck, and then you add Darryl, Darryl's been winning this category for the Yankees in previous episodes, Benny, because there is no answer for Darryl. Well, there is this time, and it's Edgar Martinez, and that's why this bench wins.
Yeah, it's close.
Period.
So it's
It's
1-2,
close. It's close.
and then we
I have to
gotta.
give it to the
I mean,
M's.
you got to put the Reds in last place on this one, right?
Yeah. Yep.
All
Oddly
right, so we
enough,
got.
that's strange too. I mean, who's on the Reds bench? Why did they fail so miserably?
Let me.
That's weird. They didn't
Yeah,
even.
I
By
was
the
pretty
way, again,
anemic. I
everybody.
think. Yeah, and you had Dan Dreesen,
Right.
who's a good hitter.
By the way, once again, all these benches clear 100 RBIs. Correct? I mean,
Oh, yes.
yeah, we've
All
been
right, you
noticing
got.
that for sure. So they're all doing their job.
Yeah, you had Dreesen was 738 and 281.
Okay.
And now you had a very good ball player, Merv Rettenman, who must have been at the tail end or he got hurt because he was only at 239. But you got
Okay.
Bill Plummer, the backup catcher, at 182.
I
Darryl
remember.
Chaney, the backup shortstop,
Yeah,
219.
they're bad. Yeah.
Yeah, now you got Doug Flynn, utility infield,
Doug,
268, not bad.
yeah,
But
but
you
that
got
was a
Ed,
miracle.
remember
Doug Flynn.
Ed Armbrister,
I was hoping you were going to say Armbrister because, yeah, he was terrible too.
185.
That's a terrible bench, man.
Yeah.
Doug Flynn was a powder puff too. Doug Flynn. Ugh.
Yeah.
That was actually his Rod Carew season, that right there. 2-6, whatever you said his average was. I was like, get out of here. He's a 220 hitter if he's lucky.
Yeah.
Guy was terrible.
So yeah,
Wasn't he
that
part of
kind
the
of
wasn't he part of the Seaver trade, Doug Flynn?
he was. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Ugh. Boo.
Now
Boo.
All right. So we got now. I was really surprised when I did this. 1954 Cleveland Indians, 93 and 36 with 12 shutouts. 75 Reds,
Oh,
63.
you got to switch over to the pitching bracket. I'm still seeing the bench.
All right, hang on.
Not that I can read them.
Yeah, you can read that much. Here we go.
Well, I see that it's bad. There we go. That I can make out, but trust me, it's blurry. Go on.
Yeah, I'm looking. I have my own PowerPoint, and I blew it up so I can see it a little bit better. But yeah,
Right. I don't
So
envy your job, bro. I don't want your job. You got the hard part of this program. Thank you for it.
let's see, we got 93 and 36 with 12 shutouts for the 54
That's
Indians.
fantastic.
Yes.
Go on.
Yeah, they had. Let me drill down into that really quick because, yeah, I mean that's probably why Hegan got those MVP votes.
Right. That's amazing.
I mean, what a staff this was. You had Early Win, the great Early Win, 23 and 11 with 3 shutouts. You had Mike Garcia, very underappreciated, 19 and 8. Won the ERA title at 2.64 with 5 shutouts. You had Bob Lemon, 23 and 7.
Oh boy.
With 2 shutouts. And then you had Art Houdeman, which I don't know who he is, but 15 and 7 with a shutout. You had 35-year-old Bob Feller bringing up the rear, 13 and 3. You had, 33, 54, 74 complete games and 12 shutouts. And 3 of these guys, Wynn came in 6th in the MVP, Garcia 19th, and Lemon 5th. Great pitching staff.
That's unbelievable. How did they not win the World Series?
I don't know.
Well, we have another thing for a future show. We're going to put the 54 Giants versus the 54 Indians like we do here and see if we get the right outcome. With a pitching staff like that, Betty, what you just read me, that's phenomenal. How do you not win the whole thing? Oh, that's right. Maybe you came across a team that played baseball better that week, the same way the Yankees, because on the surface in 96, how did we beat Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, and John Schmaltz? How the hell did we manage to beat them? when you really think about it, we did not have, Roger Clemens here yet. We did not have El Duque here yet. We did not have David Wells here yet. We had a baby Andy Pettit and a veteran named Jimmy Key.
Yeah.
We did have David Cohn, but on the surface, that was Maddox, Glavine, and Schmaltz. It shouldn't have happened. So I guess I have my answer anyway. The 54 Giants played baseball better that week because this pitching staff you just read to me is the best pitching staff I've heard you read to me since we started doing this.
Well,
That's insane.
and
That pitching
all right,
staff.
and to add fuel to the fire, early wins
Yeah.
ERA was 2.73, 2.73. Garcia wins the ERA title with 2.64. Bob Lemon 2.72,
Hall
and
of
then you
Famer.
had Howdeman 3.35, and you had Feller at 3.09. I mean,
Yeah,
what a
and he's
pitching
13
staff.
and he's 13-3.
Right.
Bob Feller at 35. Who threw missiles. I keep getting in repetitive dumb arguments with the younger kids that love baseball today and think that the guys back in the day didn't throw hard. Because every eyewitness story I've ever heard about Bob Feller was he threw missiles. He threw missiles.
Right. Yeah,
You
I mean, God only knows what he would have clocked on the radar gun.
Come on, stop it. These were grown men, and these were men who were willing to put down their bats and go to war. Don't talk to me about how hard the guy threw. You know nothing about the human race.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. I'm going to come back from getting shot down in World War II and come back and hit the shit out of the ball again. Yeah, no. Now you don't even understand what kind of person you're talking about, much less the player.
Now, what do you think here? So we got. I mean, this is very, very tightly contested.
Go on to the rest of them. What comes after the 54 team? What do we got next?
We got 75 Reds, and they are no slouches here.
Really, because I'm expecting to hear nothing like to bowl me over as far as names. Go on.
No, not really names, but consistency.
Yes, of course. You can't be the big red machine and not have a pitching staff. I'm sure.
All right, you got.
I'm sure.
Gary Nolan, 15-9.
Okay.
Yeah, Jack Billingham, 15-10.
There he is, Jack
You had
Billingham.
Fred Norman, 12-4. You had the great Don Gullett at 15-4.
That's the guy. Yeah. Okay.
And you had Pat Darcy at 11-5.
Well, you got a bunch of pitchers that are winning a hell of a lot more than they're losing. That's a hell of a balance. That some of the names are like, okay, wow.
But you also have you got a guy like Gullett whose ERA was 2.42, who was fifth in the Cy Young that year. But
yeah,
a guy like Billingham was 15-10.
He was
with a 4.11 ERA.
He was really good though. He was a good pitcher.
And Norman 3.73.
Yeah.
I love Don Gullett. Don Gullett wasn't hurt all the time.
Well, you know what Don Gullett was? Don Gullett was Jimmy Key. But Don Gullett got hurt and couldn't get to be Jimmy Key. He did get to be a champion, though. Don Gullett wasn't about, just like Jimmy Key wasn't about, Don Gullett wasn't about blazing speed. Don Gullett was a painter. He knew how to hit corners. Do you remember how he beautifully hit corners, Don Gullett, with his wonderfully smooth left-handed motion?
Yeah, he was not a power pitcher.
No, he wasn't. He would paint a picture. And that's what I liked about him. And it's really sad to think that I think it was his shoulder that betrayed him because it wasn't about throwing hard with him. And that's what Jimmy Key was too. Jimmy Key was an artist. You know, Andy Pettit was an artist. Let's face it. It wasn't about striking people out with Andy Pettit. It was about painting. And so Gullett is the best pitcher on this staff to me. Jack, we know is, what's weird? He's got the same name. Well, you took him Billingham, right? Jack Billingham?
Yeah.
Oddly enough, he's got the same name. I feel like he's the Reds' equivalent to having a Jack Morris. It's not as great as Jack Morris, but he was kind of like their bulldog. His ERA might be a little high.
It was a workhorse.
Yeah, Jack's was a little high. Those were some of the things that they try to keep the great Jack Morris out of the Hall of Fame for. Well, his ERA's a little high. Who gives a shit? A winner's a winner.
Right.
But
even like Andy Pettit was hittable.
Of course he was. Yeah.
But he won.
Well, you know how to pitch out of when he was getting hit.
All right, now listen, this is really, man, this is a tough one. 2001 M's got Freddie Garcia, 18-6. with 3 shutouts. Aaron Seeley, 15-5. Jamie Moyer, 20-6. Paul Abbott, 17-4. And John Halama, 10-7. Now you got some high ERAs. You're like Abbott, 17-4 with a 4.25 ERA.
Yeah.
But now Garcia was at 3.05. He led the league. Pretty decent staff.
Look, there's a reason why we with the Indians and the Mariners, we picked rotations that were part of record-setting seasons.
Right.
As surprising as it is, we really shouldn't be surprised at all. When a team wins 116 games, everything's got to be happening correctly. And we're seeing that for the most part. I mean, those teams have delivered pretty much at every position. They might not have won every position that we've done on this show so far, but no one's really embarrassing themselves out of Stinky McWinky's 213 batting average and was a coach for like a blink, and we thought we remembered him when he wasn't memorable. As in Strickland. Now I'm back to George Strickland.
Mr. Strickland, yeah.
Yeah. But, I'm not surprised that these pitching staffs are. I'm surprised at the names that I don't recall having such great seasons. But it's funny. I guess champions get remembered more. Is that fair?
All right. I'm gonna throw this out to you. I'm gonna say the 54 Indians are number one.
Whoa,
I'm gonna say that
whoa. We haven't even discussed the Yankees. You haven't read the Yankees.
Oh, I thought you knew those ones by heart. Hang on.
No. It's the audience at home. We have to cover this for the
that's true. That's true. For any of the we've said these every week, but who knows? We got new viewers, hopefully.
Exactly. This is an informative program.
Educational and informational and sensational. All right.
Let's cover this pitching staff because
I love this. I love this staff, though. I love this pitching staff. We get Andy Pettit, 16-11.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry, Benny. I love this staff. Is that a future title for one of your adult features?
Wait, say that again?
Is that a future title for one of your adult features? I love this staff. What do you think?
Well, it'd be like for my significant other, of course, but yeah.
Yeah.
With an arrow pointing towards me. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There we go. Okay. I love this staff too. I love this staff too.
All right. You got Pettit, 16-11. Wells, 18-4, third in the Cy Young. Cone, 20-7, fourth in the Cy Young. Hideki, 13-9, and you got El Duque, 12-4.
And you got Mendoza, 10-2.
And you got Mendoza 10 as a spot starter.
Right. Well, I do agree with what you said about I think this is the first time the 98 starting staff is going to lose this category, Benny. You got to give it to the 54 Indians. That's just insane what you read to me about the 54 Indians.
Yeah, I could not vote against them. That's like unbelievable. That's why they won 111 games.
Right. Yankees are the Yankees second. That's the real question. Here's what do we have with the final three again? As far as overall,
you got the 2001 M's at 80 and 28 with 4 shutouts, and you got the Yankees at 79 and 35.
Oh, I'm still taking the Yankee staff over that particular year.
So I would too, because you had a lot of high ERAs. I mean, the M's were a run-scoring machine.
Yeah.
You had good records, but very high ERAs.
The distribution of quality names and quality seasons is much greater and much more balanced amongst the Yankee staff of 98. So sorry, 2001. And on top of it, we knocked them out of the playoffs that year. So there's that too.
You got your 6 starters 10-2. You're doing something right.
Right. Only the Indians could overthrow that. When you have Early Win Hall of Fame and Bob Lemon Hall of Fame and Bob Feller coming up the rear, like you said, at 13-3 in the Hall of Fame, no, it's got to go to the Indians that year. How did they not win the World Series? How?
Right. Who's all right?
Well, it was Willie Mays. I mean, we know that.
So we got the Yankees in second. We got to put the M's in third, and then the Reds in fourth. Correct?
Yeah. And they all were. By the way, these were all excellent rotations. What's going on here?
Right.
You
Well,
were reading me
that's
names. You were reading me names from the Reds that I kind of faintly remember with very impressive records. I was like,
I mean, the
what?
one that always, I remember Billingham because he was the workhorse. And of course, I remember Don Gullett, but like Fred Norman,
No,
and,
yeah,
yeah,
names like
Gary
that.
Nolan.
Right, names like that.
All right.
Very impressive.
Yeah, that was a good one to talk about.
Yeah.
All right.
Too bad.
We
Too
got
bad Gullett didn't work out. I mean, he was excellent during the '77 regular season, and then he blew out his arm, his shoulder. I think he did it in the playoffs, right? Well, he tried pitching against the Royals at Yankee Stadium and got lit up. I remember that much, and then we didn't see him again. His,
right.
and if we did see him again, he came back and he just never could get through it. There was another great pitcher around that time, or at least he was great for a few seasons that we signed in '78, named Andy Messersmith. Do you remember him?
Oh yeah, of course.
And we
First
brought
free
him
agent,
in,
right?
right? And we brought him in, and he had a shoulder issue, and never. I think he was 0-3 with an ERA approaching 7.
Yeah.
So like it was sad back then. I guess Tommy John really was breakthrough as far as surgeries and stuff like that. Tommy John should be in the Hall of Fame anyway, but
Yes,
that's
yes,
a
sir.
that,
What,
that's a whole nother
288
story.
wins,
Yeah, he should be in the Hall of Fame. It was
26 seasons.
Yep, nothing flashy about Tommy John other than the fact that you could count on him to pull a 20-win season out here and there for
Right,
years.
right.
John,
He was
poor Tommy John
another guy
too.
who played on winning
On
teams.
yeah, but also always on the wrong end of it. He was on the '77-'78 Dodgers, and then he was on the '81 Yankees. Ah, man, can't get it right, bro.
Yeah.
It was one of
All
them.
right. Be curious about this one. So you got the closer, Ray Narleski, 3-3 with 13 saves and 54. Raleigh Eastwick, 5-3 and 22. You got 2001 Kazuhiro Sasaki, 0-4 with 45 saves, and you got Mo, 3-0 and 36.
What's Suzuki's earn run average that year?
Let's see. I knew you were going to ask me that. I think this was his one good season. He didn't last too long.
No.
In fact, he lasted four seasons.
Yeah.
3.24.
Yeah.
3.24, and what was Mo here? I mean, if
No,
he's
it's
0
not.
four, he blew 4 saves at least.
It's not about him and Mo. Mo wins. Mo wins. Once again, when Mo comes into a game in 1998, you are out. You are done.
Mo 1.91 ERA.
You
Can't
are
give it to a guy with another point and a half higher.
Yeah, you are done. And he's also the only closer on any head-to-head thing we've been doing with bumball metrics with 0 losses. I say it again, as I've pointed out in previous shows. When he comes in, you're done. In 1998, you're finished. So you can keep your extra 11 saves and your record-breaking team, and you lost to us in the damn playoffs that year. Keep the extra saves, and that's why when you were reading me these numbers, my debate in my head was not about Mo. My debate is whether or not Mr. 3.24 ERA with his 0-4 record is better than Rollie Eastwick, who had 22 saves and a 2.09 ERA, I think, that particular year, being the closer for the Big Red Machine. Who went the whole
Raleigh had
way.
a number of good seasons.
Rollie Eastwick was much, much better a closer and delivered a ring this year with a 2.09 ERA. So the question is do we care about all those saves on a 116-win team that probably put him in good position constantly to have success because of their insane offense? Or there is an insane offense in Cincinnati too, if you want to play devil's advocate. But am I going with the 3.24 and the 0-4 against the 2.09?
Let me see.
What do you think?
Eastwick.
He was the closer for both championships, I believe, for the Big Red Machine.
5-3, 2.60, 22 saves.
2.60. Oh, so in '76 he posted 2.09.
Yeah, he was 11-5 with
right.
20. all in relief.
Right. He was the closer.
Yeah.
Benny, who are you taking? I don't do
That's
that often. Are you taking the guy with the 45 saves on the team that didn't win a championship? Or are you taking the guy with the 2.6 ERA, the 22 saves on the Big Red Machine?
I would lean towards Raleigh Eastbrook. I have to be
Yeah, me
honest.
too. Yeah, because I know who the better closer is. And I know who the better closer is that year. It's about the season. Yeah, sure, the numbers are pretty, but it didn't follow through to a title. And
Well, I
in
mean, and
Rawley's
the
case,
question is, I mean,
follow
the
through
one thing I
twice.
couldn't track is how many blown saves. We know
Right,
the Sasaki guy blew at least 4
right.
saves, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
So yeah,
Again, that's why I always marvel at the zero for Mariano that year. I mean, again, I say it. You realize that Mariano got up one day to go to report to spring training camp and get ready to work the whole season with the end goal trying to be a world championship and didn't lose a single game.
and he left at the end of October with no losses.
Well,
No losses.
yeah, keep your 45 saves. Keep them.
Right.
And you can keep them in Rawley's case, too. I want Rawley Eastwick. He's the closer for the Big Red Machine.
He great,
Both
great closer.
years. He did even better the following year from the numbers you read, 11 and 5,
He did.
2.09.
He was a stud.
He's
Then they had
excellent.
him and the other guy, Will McEnany. Remember him, the lefty? They had the righty lefty thing going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. No, he was top for a few years there, for sure.
All right. Last but certainly not least, 54 Indians. That number's wrong. That should be 111 and 43 for Al
Right.
Lopez.
Okay.
Sparky's 108.54. Lou is 116.46. Torrey's 114.48.
Well, it's Joe again. It's Joe again. They 125 and 50.
Yeah.
By the time that it was all said and done with, they roller coastered everybody, and they didn't have to have a huge, sexy, power hitting name in the middle of their lineup. They were the greatest baseball team ever. I don't know how it's going to turn out tonight, but I'm still going to feel that way, even if you read me otherwise.
Yeah.
It's going to
Yeah.
be
Now,
it's going to be hard.
do we give Lou, or I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, this all the way around. This is a tough one.
Right. Well, what Lou managed to do that year is insane. It really is. The 116 wins, and yeah, I got to be honest. I'm a Yankee fan. When they were approaching it, I'm like, oh man, don't break it. You're not better than that team. Nobody's better than that team. So I didn't want them to break it, but when they did, I was like, okay. And then they came up against us in the playoffs. I'm like, wow, now we can do something about it, and we did do something about it. It's incredibly impressive, but I'm not good. I can't. Are we really going to say that it's more impressive than Sparky getting the first of two of the Big Red Machine, one of the most legendary teams ever that we talk about, outside of the 27 Yankees or maybe Mantle and Maris's team? The Reds, the Big Red Machine is right there with the greatest teams ever mentioned, and many feel they're the greatest team ever mentioned is the Big Red Machine. So what's more impressive? It is Sparky. It's Sparky. Sorry. It's the beginning of those two back-to-back championships that you put out the most amazing. How many Hall of Famers are on that team?
Oh,
Maybe
geez.
Rose. Maybe it's time for Rose to get the F in. Maybe Concepcion should have been in a long time ago.
I mean,
You
the
know,
whole
but
infield should be in, right? I mean,
yeah, the whole infield should basically be in. And then if you look at the outfield, there were no slouches there either. George Foster had a great career.
yeah.
He's not a Hall of Famer, but he's one of those guys you could at least talk about. He had a great career. Ken Griffey Sr. was a great professional hitter for well over 10 years.
Even
Probably.
Dan Dreesen coming off the bench.
Yeah, no, it was a great team. It's got to go to Sparky. It's got to go to Joe first. Joe managed the greatest baseball team of all time and has the most wins when you combine it all. The end game is to win the World Series. That's still the end game. And no one did it better than the 1998 New York Yankees and the 75-76 Reds. I'll say the 76 Reds were even more impressive because they swept the Yankees. They had to go 7 games in this one. But look, they won it. And it was the first of back-to-backs, and it's the Big Red Machine. The end.
Yeah.
So Sparky's second and Lou was third. And oddly enough, with 111 wins, he did the same thing Lou did back in the day. When you think about it, toppling the mighty 1927 Yankees. So I ask you this: what is more impressive? Hold on, let's slow down here a second. What's more impressive, Benny? What's more impressive? The Cleveland Indian manager overcoming, even though it's one game, but he did it. The 1927 Murderers Row 110-44 New York Yankees, or the 1998 record being overcome by Lou Piniella a few years later. What's more impressive?
Yeah, that is a tough one.
Oh, it's crazy, isn't it? Should we give it to Lou just because they play more games? A little bit more games on the schedule. I mean, how many games would the Indians won if they were afforded those 8 more games? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, they were 111 and
What if
43.
What if they go 7-1 and they
Yeah.
have 118 wins?
Right.
So it really comes down to, if you're being historically responsible, what is more impressive? Taking 27 years in between to bypass Ruth and Gehrig and the great Miller Huggins, since this is the manager category, or Lou Piniella 3 years later to topple the Yankees with 116 wins.
I mean, nobody had won that. I mean, besides Murderers Row, right? There was never an 110 win season.
No. I think it's actually more impressive what happened in 1954.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
So unfortunately, and that's the amazing thing when it comes to the bum ball metrics, 116 wins gets you 4th place. Sorry. This is about the season. It is about the season. Joe Torre had the greatest season of them all. Sparky Anderson had the second greatest season of them all on this list because they both won World Series. World Series is part of a season. The Indians and the Mariners are very similar because they both broke records, but they both didn't win championships. And that's why this turned out the way this turned out. The real true argument really comes down to the bottom two and what's more impressive. I think toppling Ruth and Gehrig and Miller Huggins in 27 years that nobody had won more games than the mighty 27 Murderers Row. I think that's more impressive than 3 years later.
No, I would agree.
So there it is.
I'm doing the tally here.
I'm nervous. I'm always nervous. Always nervous because you never know. You really don't.
I was a bit worried here. 11, 14.
Now watch it, something all strange. I'm going to be like, okay, time to change bum ball metrics.
No. 30.
No. I got to think in my mind what makes the most sense. Hold on, let me process.
It's going to take me 1 second here. 7.
Yeah.
14, 17, 20.
I just read Hot Lips Houlihan passed away from.
Yeah, how sad, right?
Not very happy about that. I think
what
only
a great show that was.
Oh my God,
one of the best shows ever.
It was. It took a very serious situation and somehow made you laugh and cry at the same time, depending on the scene. What a great show. And they were able to overcome and transition major characters leaving and replacing them with successful replacements. And they did it multiple times, whether it was the Colonel, whether it was Hawkeye's best friend, whether it was Burns leaving for Winchester, whatever they did, they always hit a home run with it. What a show.
Yeah, you had Radar first and then Klinger, right?
Yeah, Radar, Klinger, right, correct.
Then you had
well, Trapper got replaced by BJ.
BJ Honeycutt, that's what I was. Yeah, the BJ Honeycutt.
Blake got replaced by Colonel Sherman T. Potter. Horse hockey player, Buffalo Chips.
All right, the results are in, Mr. Farrow. Here we go.
Oh, God.
All right, 4th place with 37 points, 1954 Cleveland Indians.
Okay.
3rd place, 33 points, 2001 Seattle Mariners.
Makes sense.
2nd place, 28 points, 75 Reds. And winners and still champions, 22 points, 98 Yankees.
Look at those Yankees still dominating. You know what? It all makes sense. Again, thank God. Because I wonder, we go through this and I don't have it like, I'm not cementing in my head who's getting what place and what the numbers are. I'm just getting a feel, but I'm always in nervous anticipation what the final result's going to be. But if you tell me 98 Yankees are the best team of all time over the four we did, yeah, of course they are. And then the Reds, and then the Mariners and the Indians. I still got to wonder, though, what would have happened if the Indians pitching staff went up against the Mariners, but I could see why the Mariners would be ahead of them. I could see it.
I think the closest competitors to the 98 Yankees were the 29 A's, I believe.
Were they? How many points?
I have to go back and look at I think I kept my stat sheets, but I think
think that the closest I've seen it come was the 27 Yankees were only 4 points behind the 98.
Oh, if you count like all the Yankee teams, yeah, I'm talking about since the 98
and
Yankees
then there was
have been defending.
Right. So far, the two teams that I've seen give the 98 Yankees the closest run has been the 27 and the 39 Yankees.
Right. So their only competition is themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, folks.
Yeah.
There's when we kicked this off, there was a reason why we started with those four Yankee teams, 27, 39, 61, and 98. Right. There was a reason for that.
But I mean, yeah.
Good stuff, bro.
This was I really thought this was going to be a little bit closer.
I am surprised at 6 points differential.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised by that.
What messed them up was they had the worst starting pitching.
Mm-hmm.
They had, center field with Griffey, right? Or Geronimo, rather.
Geronimo.
Yeah, and in right field with Griffey.
Right, because Griffey's numbers were very modest outside of his nice 305 batting average. He only had like 4 home runs and 46 RBIs or something like that.
Right.
I think you read. But yeah, it all makes sense.
And the bench was very weak.
The bench was terrible.
Yeah.
We always, and what's funny, oddly enough, we usually just wind up, the 98 Yankees usually wind up just closing the deal when we get to the bench. But this was the one time where the Mariners bench won.
Yeah. When you throw Edgar's numbers in there, you can't overcome that.
So what does that say about the 98 Yankees? Once again, we didn't even win the bench category, and we won very, very comfortably.
But, we're consistent. The only
we didn't win the starting pitching either.
You had Chad Curtis in left field, got us a 3. And then you've got second base, Knobloch's got us a 4.
And that's it.
Everywhere else.
Right.
We took first base. We took short. We took third. We took relief. We took manager. And then we came runner-up in center field, right field, catcher, bench, and starting pitcher. Just consistent.
Right. And think about it. We came in second with Jorge Posada, Bernie Williams, and Paul O'Neill.
Right.
You know what I mean? I talk about the depth of that team. That's our second place on some categories, the ones where we didn't win the category. And we got Bernie Williams, Jorge Posada, and Paul O'Neill. By the way, all 3 numbers, you folks who aren't aware, you can go to Yankee Stadium and see that they're retired numbers.
Right.
It's just, come on. The 1998 Yankees were so loaded. They were just so loaded. It's going to be impossible.
I'm wondering if we're running out of challenges for them. I'm sure we're going to find some more.
Well, I would like to also do other teams head-to-head. Like, I would like to re-explore the 54 World Series or the Miracle Mets. Maybe they should have won. Because after what we did with the 60s Yankees-Pirates World Series and did the matchups of the seasons and the World Series in total, and the Pirates won, anything is possible. Because I do believe after what we did with the bum ball metrics that the Pirates were the better team. So I do want to re-explore World Series. Did the right team win? And that in itself could be very interesting. So look forward to that.
Maybe like a 69 Mets versus the Orioles, and then maybe
69 Mets, the Indians, Giants. I'm fascinated
54
by
Indians, Giants, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to re-explore the 84 Padres, Tigers.
Another good one. You mentioned that before, yeah.
There's good players on that damn Padres team, man. There's some really good players on that team. I would love to see if this should have gone longer, or if possibly the Tigers had more of opponent than appeared though at that World Series. I'm just interested in those kinds of things. And we had a
Right.
good time exploring the Diamondbacks Yankees one because we discovered that if Mario didn't throw the ball in the center field, the Yankees should have beat the Diamondbacks in 2001.
Absolutely.
But ball metrics
Absolutely.
doesn't lie, folks.
No,
It doesn't
no.
lie.
I mean, even
You know.
Ford Frick reaffirmed it. The commissioner of
Right,
baseball.
from Kings
Jeez.
Park Psychiatric Center too. By
Yeah,
the
yeah.
way, was that letter from Wisteria Hall? It's one of the buildings on the property. Just curious.
Okay.
You
I
know,
don't know. Do they serve tapioca pudding there? If they do, then yeah.
they serve that, but the problem is can you eat it without the straitjacket? You know, you got to get the straitjacket
Right.
off
That's
first.
yeah. You got a good point there. So, Jimmy,
Yeah.
another great matchup in the spirit of total transparency. Like I said, I was really nervous that the 75 Reds might take this one, but the 98 Yankees pulled it out, just like the guy who left his Trojans at home. Right.
He pulled it out.
Pulled it out.
Monday Night
All
Raw,
right.
huh?
We're gonna thank the good people that stayed with us for an hour and 40 minutes. But another great episode of the Baseball Bums. We had to do this though. We had to be thorough. We don't want to. I know it's a lot of time, but we had to be thorough. We want to make sure we give each position its proper due. So it does take a little bit of time, but I think it was worth the effort. But if you do love chatting about the great game of baseball, you are in the right place. And if you're looking for some great wrestling and even some epic non-wrestling content just like this, please hit the like and subscribe buttons and become a part of the Monty and the Farrell family. This is a family that will welcome you with open arms. Mr. Farrell, will you do the honors and take us home?
You've been watching the Baseball Bums, and until next week, later.